Most people don't make it past 70 in good health. And what's even more alarming is that the reasons why are almost never the ones you'd expect. It's not always the big, obvious things like smoking or eating fast food every day. No, the real dangers are the quiet ones, the hidden ones, the ones that are slowly working against your body for years and years before you ever feel a single symptom. And by the time most people find out, it's already too late to turn things around completely. But here's what I need you to understand right now, today, in the next few minutes. You are going to learn about 6 specific hidden dangers that are silently shortening the lives of millions of Americans every single year. And more importantly, you're going to learn exactly how to avoid them so that you don't just make it past 70. You thrive past 70, past 80, and beyond with energy, clarity, and independence. I'm Dr. Sarah Brooks. I've been practicing medicine for over 20 years, and today I dedicate my work entirely to helping seniors live healthier, longer lives. And I have to tell you, in all my years of practice, the patients who age the best, the ones who are still sharp, still active, still genuinely happy well into their 80s, they all have one thing in common. They paid attention to the right things before it was too late. And that's exactly what we're going to do together today. Now, I want you to think about someone you know, maybe a neighbor, a sibling, a close friend, someone who seemed perfectly fine at 60, and then by 72 or 73, their health had completely fallen apart. Maybe it was a stroke that came out of nowhere. Maybe it was a diagnosis of dementia that blindsided the whole family. Maybe it was a fall that broke a hip and changed everything. These things don't just happen. They build quietly over years and decades, fed by habits and conditions that most people never even think to address. And that's the tragedy because so many of these outcomes are preventable. And I mean, truly, genuinely preventable when you know what to look for and when you act early enough. So if you're watching this and you're in your 50s, 60s, or even early 70s, this information is for you. And if this is making you think of someone you love, someone who needs to hear this, please keep watching because I'm going to ask you to share this with them before we're done today. And if any of this sounds like something you've been experiencing or worrying about, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button right now. It tells me that this kind of content is reaching the people who need it most, and it helps other seniors across America find this video too. Let's start with danger number 1. And this one surprises almost everyone I talk to. The first hidden danger is chronic low grade inflammation. Now, when most people hear the word inflammation, they think of a swollen ankle or a sore throat, something you can see or feel, and then it goes away. But there is another kind of inflammation, one that produces no pain, no redness, no obvious swelling, and yet it is burning through your body every single day at a low, slow, constant level, attacking your blood vessels, your brain cells, your joints, and your organs from the inside. Scientists actually call it silent inflammation or sometimes inflammaging because it is so deeply connected to the aging process itself and to nearly every major age related disease we know of, including heart disease, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, and arthritis. And here's what makes this so dangerous for people in their 50s specifically. By the time you're 50, your body's natural ability to regulate inflammation has already started to decline. The systems that used to keep it in check when you were young are not as efficient anymore. And if you are eating the wrong foods, carrying extra weight around your midsection, not sleeping well, or living with chronic stress, all of those things are pouring gasoline on that internal fire every single day. According to research published by leading American medical institutions, chronic low grade inflammation is now considered one of the primary drivers of early death in adults over 60 in the United States. And that means this silent process, the one you can't feel, could be quietly shortening your life right now. So, what do you do about it? The good news is that inflammation responds beautifully to diet and lifestyle changes, and you don't need expensive medications or complicated programs to start making a real difference. One of the most powerful things you can do is what I call the anti inflammation morning protocol. And I've had dozens of patients in their 50s and 60s use this with remarkable results. Here's what you do every morning, before you eat anything, take 1 large glass of warm water, squeeze in half a fresh lemon, add a quarter teaspoon of turmeric powder, a small pinch of black pepper, which is critical because it activates the turmeric, and a teaspoon of raw honey. Stir it well and drink it slowly. This combination works because turmeric contains curcumin, one of the most studied natural anti inflammatory compounds in the world. And the black pepper increases its absorption in your body by up to 2,000%. The lemon provides vitamin C, which supports your immune system, and the honey has its own antimicrobial and anti inflammatory properties. You can find all of these ingredients at any Walmart, CVS, or regular grocery store across America for just a few dollars. I'm telling you, this simple morning habit alone has helped so many of my patients feel less stiff, less foggy, and more energetic within just a few weeks. But the diet changes matter just as much. You want to increase your intake of omega 3 rich foods like salmon, walnuts, and flaxseed, all of which actively lower inflammation in the body. You want to eat more colorful berries, especially blueberries and strawberries, which are loaded with antioxidants that neutralize the free radicals that trigger inflammation. And you want to cut back significantly on processed foods, refined sugars, white bread, and anything with partially hydrogenated oils, because those are the foods that feed the fire. And honestly, the shift doesn't have to be dramatic or overwhelming. Even replacing one inflammatory meal a day with an anti inflammatory option can make a measurable difference in your body's internal environment over time. Now let's move to danger number two. And this one is connected to that first one in ways most people never realize. The second hidden danger is poor sleep quality. And I'm not just talking about not getting enough hours. I'm talking about the quality of the sleep you are getting, which is something that declines significantly after age 50 in most Americans and creates a cascade of health problems that most doctors don't connect back to sleep because the connection is not always obvious. Here's why this matters so much. While you sleep, your brain runs a literal cleaning cycle. There is a system in your brain called the glymphatic system, and its entire job is to flush out toxic waste products that build up during the day, including a protein called amyloid beta, which is one of the key substances associated with Alzheimer's disease. When you don't sleep deeply enough, that cleaning cycle gets interrupted and those toxins accumulate. Over years and decades, this accumulation is believed to be one of the major contributing factors to cognitive decline and dementia. And it's not just your brain. Poor sleep raises your cortisol levels, which increases inflammation, which circles back to danger number one. It disrupts your insulin sensitivity, which raises your risk of type 2 diabetes. It weakens your immune system, making you more vulnerable to infections and even to certain cancers. And it dramatically affects your heart. Studies show that people who consistently get less than 6 hours of quality sleep per night have significantly higher rates of heart attack and stroke. I remember a patient of mine, a 67-year-old retired school teacher from Tennessee, who came to me saying she felt like she was aging 10 years in two. She was forgetting things, her blood pressure was creeping up, she had no energy even after a full night in bed. When we really looked at her sleep patterns, it turned out she was waking up multiple times a night, never reaching the deep restorative stages that her body desperately needed. Once we addressed her sleep, everything else began to improve. Her blood pressure stabilized, her memory got sharper, her energy came back. Sleep was the hidden key for her, and it is for so many others. If you've been dealing with restless nights, trouble staying asleep, or waking up feeling like you've barely rested at all, go ahead and hit that thumbs up right now, because I have some very practical things to share with you. First, your bedroom temperature matters more than you might think. Research shows that the ideal sleeping temperature for adults over 50 is between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cooler than most Americans keep their homes. A cool bedroom signals to your brain that it's time to shift into deep sleep mode. Second, cut off screens, meaning phones, tablets, and televisions, at least 60 to 90 minutes before bed, because the blue light from those screens suppresses your melatonin production and delays sleep onset significantly. Third, try a simple magnesium glycinate supplement, which is available at any Walgreens or Whole Foods and is one of the most effective natural sleep aids for older adults. Magnesium helps relax your muscles, calm your nervous system, and support the deeper stages of sleep that your brain needs for its nightly cleanup. Now, danger number three is one that I think is the most underestimated of all six, and that is social isolation. I know you might be thinking, wait, this is a health video. Why are we talking about being lonely? But please hear me out because the science on this is absolutely stunning and frankly terrifying. According to major research from leading American universities and from the U.S. Surgeon General's office, chronic loneliness and social isolation are associated with a 29% increased risk of heart disease, a 32% increased risk of stroke, and a dramatically increased risk of early death, comparable in magnitude to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. 15 cigarettes a day. That is how serious this is. And here's the thing, after retirement, after the kids and grandkids move farther away, after friends start to pass or move into care facilities, social isolation sneaks up on millions of American seniors without them even fully realizing it's happening. You might still see people occasionally, but the deep, regular, meaningful connection that your nervous system requires to stay healthy starts to fade, and your body feels it at the cellular level. Loneliness activates your stress response, raises cortisol and inflammation, disrupts sleep, weakens immunity, and accelerates cognitive decline. It is a physiological crisis disguised as a social problem. I had a patient, a 72-year-old widower from Michigan, who came to me because he had noticed his memory slipping and he felt physically weaker than he had just a year before. When I asked about his social life, he looked away and said, "Well, I keep myself busy around the house." But when I pressed a little more, it turned out he went sometimes 4 or 5 days without having a real conversation with another person. We worked together on building intentional social connection back into his life. He started attending a senior fitness class at his local community center 3 mornings a week. He joined a small Bible study group at his church. Within 4 months, his memory scores had measurably improved and his energy was dramatically better. Human connection is not a luxury, it is medicine, and I mean that in the most literal scientific sense. If you have a membership to our channel, I've shared a detailed guide on building social wellness after 60 that goes much deeper into this topic. If you want access to that and to all the exclusive content I share only with our members, I'd love for you to join our community. You can find the membership option right below this video, and I promise you the information there is just as important as what I'm sharing with you today. Let's move to danger number 4, which is one that your doctor may have mentioned, but probably hasn't explained in full detail. And that is muscle loss, or what scientists call sarcopenia. After age 40, the average American begins losing between 3 and 5% of their muscle mass every single decade if they are not actively working to prevent it, and that rate accelerates after 60. Now, why does this matter so much? Because your muscles are not just for lifting things or walking upstairs, although those matter enormously for your independence and your quality of life. Your muscles are a metabolic organ. They regulate your blood sugar, they support your hormonal balance, they protect your bones from fractures, and they are deeply connected to your immune function and even your cognitive health. When you lose too much muscle mass, everything suffers. And here's the really frightening part. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death among Americans over 65, according to the Centers for Disease Control, and muscle loss is one of the primary reasons why falls become so dangerous at that age. A younger person with strong muscles falls and catches themselves or bounces back quickly. An older person with significant muscle loss falls and shatters a hip, and that hip fracture can set off a chain of health events that is very hard to recover from at 75 or 80. The solution here is resistance training. And before you say, "I'm too old for that," I need you to understand that research consistently shows that adults in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s who begin resistance training experience significant improvements in muscle mass, bone density, balance, and cognitive function. You do not need a gym membership or heavy weights. Body weight exercises done consistently at home, things like wall push-ups, chair squats, and resistance band exercises, are enough to make a meaningful difference. I recommend starting with just 20 minutes 3 times a week and building from there. And on the nutrition side, most American seniors are not getting enough protein, which is the raw material your muscles need to rebuild and maintain themselves. Aim for at least 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight every day, spread across your meals, focusing on high-quality sources like eggs, Greek yogurt, chicken, fish, and beans. And now we're at danger number 5, and this one is happening in millions of American homes right now, and most people have absolutely no idea. The 5th hidden danger is vitamin D deficiency. And I call it the silent epidemic because the latest national health surveys suggest that more than 40% of American adults are deficient in vitamin D, with rates even higher among people over 60 and among those living in northern states where sunlight exposure is limited for months at a time during those cold winter seasons. And the consequences of vitamin D deficiency are severe and wide ranging in ways that most people never connect to this single nutrient. Vitamin D is not just a vitamin in the traditional sense. It functions more like a hormone in your body, regulating hundreds of genetic processes. When you're deficient, your immune system becomes significantly weaker. Your bones lose density at a faster rate, increasing your fracture risk dramatically. Your mood regulation is disrupted, which leads to increased rates of depression among older adults. Your cardiovascular risk increases, and your cognitive function suffers. Research has found links between low vitamin D levels and accelerated cognitive decline and a higher risk of dementia. This is not a minor nutrient. This is one of the most critical biochemical players in your body's long term health. The problem is that getting enough vitamin D from sunlight becomes much harder as we age for several reasons. First, older skin is less efficient at synthesizing vitamin D from sun exposure. Second, many seniors spend less time outdoors, especially during winter in places like Minnesota, Michigan, or upstate New York, where those cold months can keep people inside for extended periods. And third, very few foods contain meaningful amounts of vitamin D naturally, with fatty fish like salmon and tuna, and fortified dairy products being among the best food sources available at your local grocery store. My recommendation for most of my patients over 50 is to get their vitamin D levels tested through a simple blood test with their primary care doctor, and then to supplement accordingly. For most American seniors, a daily supplement of 2,000 to 4,000 IU of vitamin D3 combined with vitamin K2 for proper calcium absorption is appropriate. But you should always confirm the right dose with your own doctor based on your specific blood levels. This is one of the most affordable and accessible interventions available, and the difference it makes in energy, mood, immune strength, and bone health is genuinely remarkable. Now, before I share danger number 6, which I believe is the most critical and dangerous of all the ones we've discussed today, I want to ask you something. Has any of this been eye-opening for you? Have you recognized yourself or someone you love in any of these hidden dangers? If so, write it in the comments right now. Tell me which of these 6 dangers hits closest to home for you, or which ones you're already doing something about. Your experience and your story could genuinely help someone else who is watching this video today and hasn't found the courage yet to take action. Your comment matters more than you know. And we've reached the 6th hidden danger, the one I've been building toward since the very beginning of this video. And it is this: ignoring your cardiovascular risk markers, specifically the ones beyond basic blood pressure and cholesterol that most standard annual physicals simply don't test for. Now, heart disease remains the #1 killer of Americans and has been for decades. But what most people don't realize is that the standard cholesterol test your doctor orders every year, the one that measures total cholesterol, LDL, and HDL, is actually a fairly incomplete picture of your true cardiovascular risk. And many of the people who have heart attacks and strokes had normal cholesterol numbers, which leaves them and their families completely blindsided. The markers I'm talking about are things like your LPA level, which is a genetic form of cholesterol that significantly elevates heart attack risk and is found in roughly 20% of Americans, but almost never gets tested for in a routine physical. Your HSCRP, which stands for high sensitivity C reactive protein and is the most direct blood marker of that chronic low grade inflammation we talked about earlier. Your homocysteine level, which when elevated damages the lining of your blood vessels and dramatically increases stroke risk. And your fasting insulin level, which reveals insulin resistance years before it ever shows up as high blood sugar or a diabetes diagnosis. These 4 markers together paint a far more accurate picture of your long-term cardiovascular and metabolic health than any standard cholesterol panel ever could. I cannot tell you how many times over the years I have seen patients come to me after a cardiac event, someone who had been told by their previous doctor that their health looked fine, that their numbers were good, that they had nothing to worry about, and yet they had a heart attack at 68 or a stroke at 71. And when we tested those additional markers, we found the problem that had been hiding for years right there in the numbers that nobody had ever thought to check. This is one of the most important conversations you can have with your primary care doctor, and I'm asking you, please have it before your next annual visit. Ask specifically for an HSCRP test, a homocysteine level, an LPA test, and a fasting insulin level. These tests are often covered by Medicare and by most health insurance plans, and they could genuinely save your life. Now, I want to bring all 6 of these hidden dangers together and show you how they form a web, because that's the really important insight that I want you to leave today with. These 6 dangers: chronic inflammation, poor sleep, social isolation, muscle loss, vitamin D deficiency, and hidden cardiovascular markers, they are not independent of each other. They feed each other. Inflammation disrupts sleep. Poor sleep worsens inflammation. Social isolation raises cortisol, which increases inflammation and worsens sleep. Muscle loss accelerates metabolic decline, which feeds insulin resistance, which shows up in those cardiovascular markers. Vitamin D deficiency weakens the immune response, which allows inflammation to run unchecked. They are all threads in the same web, and when you start pulling on one of them in the right direction, all the others start to shift too. That is the beautiful truth that I want you to hold on to today. And let me tell you about a patient who embodies this perfectly because her story has stayed with me for years, and I think about her often when I'm preparing content like this. Her name was Margaret, a 68-year-old retired nurse from North Carolina, which I mention because nurses often know a lot about medicine, but can be the worst at applying it to themselves, something I say with great affection. Margaret came to me because she felt, in her words, like she was running out of time. Her energy was gone. Her joints ached constantly. She was forgetting things at work, forgetting things at home. She had gained about 30 pounds since retiring, and she had stopped seeing her friends because she didn't feel well enough to enjoy time with them. Her standard blood work looked, as she put it, fine enough.